In Australia, we have two national religions, footy and real estate. If you're not yelling at the TV on a Friday night, you're probably scrolling through domain.com.au, looking at houses you can't afford. I'm a sparky and electrician by trade. I've crawled through enough roof cavities and wired enough switchboards to know that behind every fresh coat of paint, there's usually a bit of rot. But I never thought the rot would be in my own relationship. I'd been seeing Jessica for about 8 months. She was smart, ambitious, worked in marketing. She was obsessed with the property ladder, always talking about negative gearing, capital gains, the works. One night, over dinner, she dropped the bomb. She looked stressed, barely touched her schnitzel. "Babe," she said, spinning her wine glass, "I'm really worried about my brother, Ben." Now, I'd never met Ben. According to Jessica, he was the black sheep of the family. A bit of a gambler, couldn't hold down a job, always asking for money. "He's got this little investment unit out in Parramatta," she sighed. "But he's behind on the mortgage. The bank is threatening to foreclose. It's a mess. The place is a dump, so he can't even rent it out to cover the payments." I took the bait immediately. I'm a bloke who fixes things. That's what I do. "Does it need much work?" I asked. She looked up with big, hopeful eyes. "Mostly cosmetic. But the wiring is shot. The lights don't work. If we could just get it compliant, we could get a tenant in there and he wouldn't lose the asset. It would save our family so much shame." Then came the ask. "I know you charge a fortune for call-outs, Jack, but is there any way you could just take a look? For family? Ben has zero cash right now, but once the rent starts coming in, he'll pay you back, I promise. For family." The magic words. "Yeah, all right," I said. "I'll swing by on Saturday, see what I can do." If I knew then that Ben didn't even exist, I would have cut the power to that whole building. I pulled up to the unit block in Parramatta. It was one of those depressing red brick boxes from the 70s. Inside? It was a dog's breakfast. The wiring was ancient cloth-wrapped cables, a fire hazard waiting to happen. No safety switches. Half the power points were cracked. "It's bad, Jess," I told her, scratching my head. "This isn't a patch job. This needs a full rewire. New switchboard, new circuits, LED downlights to modernize it. You're looking at a big job." She grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "Please, Jack. If we don't fix it, we can't rent it. If we can't rent it, the bank takes it. Ben is at rock bottom. You're the only one who can save this." Looking back, I was an idiot. But when a beautiful woman tells you you're her hero, your brain turns off and your ego takes the wheel. So I got to work. For the next 4 weekends in a row, while my mates were at the pub or out fishing, I was crawling through a ceiling cavity full of 40-year-old dust and rat droppings. I ripped out the old guts and put in the new stuff, top quality too. Clipsal switches, premium downlights, safety RCDs. I didn't cut corners because, hey, it's family, right? And here's the kicker. Since Ben was allegedly broke, I put all the materials on my trade account. Copper wire isn't cheap. Neither is a new switchboard. I spent about $3,500 of my own money on parts alone. "Don't worry," Jess said, bringing me a servo pie for lunch. "As soon as the tenant moves in and pays the bond, Ben will transfer you the cash for the parts, plus extra for your time." I never saw Ben. Not once. Every time I asked, Jess had an excuse. "Oh, he's too ashamed to face you, Jack. He's at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. He's looking for work." By the time I finished, the unit looked mint. The value must have jumped $50,000 just from the electrical work and the lighting. I handed Jess the keys, feeling proud. "Tell Ben he's welcome," I said. Little did I know, I wasn't saving a brother. I was patting a nest egg for someone else entirely. A week went by. Jessica was over the moon. She told me the tenant had moved in immediately, paid the bond, and signed a 12-month lease. "Ben is so relieved, babe," she gushed. "He's just waiting for the first month's rent to clear, and then he'll transfer you the cash for the parts." "Yeah, no worries," I said. I trusted her. Why wouldn't I? She was my girlfriend. But then, Tuesday rolled around. I was packing the van for a big commercial job in the city. I reached for my Makita impact driver, my good one, the 18-volt brushless beast that cost me nearly $400. It wasn't in the van. It wasn't in the garage. Then it hit me. I left it in the bottom kitchen cupboard at the unit in Parramatta when I was installing the oven isolator. I needed that drill for the morning. I called Jess, straight to voicemail, called again, nothing. I looked at the clock. It was 6:30 p.m. Parramatta was only 20 minutes away against traffic. I remembered I still had the spare key Jess gave me during the reno. I figured I'd just drive over, knock on the door, explain to the new tenant that I was the Sparky who wired the place, and grab my tool. No big deal, right? I hopped in the van and drove over. The unit looked great from the street. My LED oyster lights on the balcony were glowing warm white. It looked like a proper home now, not the dump it was a month ago. I walked up the stairs, whistling a tune, key in hand. I slid the key into the lock and tried to turn it. It didn't budge. I jiggled it. Maybe it was sticky? Nope. The lock was brand new. Someone had changed the barrel. That was weird. Landlords usually keep the locks unless a tenant requests it specifically. I knocked on the door. Hard. Footsteps approached. Heavy ones. The door swung open, and standing there wasn't a young student or a struggling family renting a cheap unit. It was a bloke about my age, wearing a collared shirt, holding a glass of red wine. He looked comfortable, like he owned the place. "Yeah, mate, can I help you?" he asked, looking at my high-vis shirt with suspicion. I put on my best friendly tradie smile. "G'day, mate. Sorry to barge in on your Tuesday night. I'm the Sparky who rewired this place a couple of weeks ago. I think I left my Makita drill in the bottom kitchen cupboard. Do you mind if I just grab it?" The bloke blinked. He looked confused, but not angry. He took a sip of his wine. "Oh yeah? The wiring is top-notch, by the way. Love the dimmers in the lounge. Hold on, I'll check the cupboard." He walked back into the kitchen, my kitchen, the one I sweated in, and returned 10 seconds later with my dusty impact driver. "Here you go, mate." "Cheers," I said, taking it. "So, you settled in all right? Ben said you moved in pretty quick." The guy frowned, his eyebrows knitted together. "Ben?" "Yeah, Ben, the landlord, Jess's brother." He laughed, a short, confused chuckle. "Mate, I don't know who Ben is, and I definitely don't have a landlord." My stomach dropped. The air in the hallway felt suddenly very thin. "What do you mean?" I asked, my grip tightening on the drill handle. "I mean, I'm not renting," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "I own this place. Bought it 4 years ago with my missus." "Your missus?" I whispered. "Yeah, Jessica," he said casually. "She's the one who organized all the renovations. Said she got a great deal on the electrical work through a friend of a friend." He smiled, a genuine oblivious smile. "She's actually just popped out to get Thai food. You just missed her." I stood there, frozen. My brain was trying to process the information, but it kept coming up with error. Ben didn't exist. The tenant was her husband or de facto partner. And I wasn't her boyfriend. I was just the friend of a friend who worked for free. "Right," I managed to choke out. "Right. Well, thanks for the drill. Tell her the Sparky says the invoice is in the mail." I turned around and walked down the stairs before I did something that would send me to jail. I drove home in silence. No radio, just the hum of the tires and the blood pounding in my ears. I wanted to smash something. I wanted to drive back there and tear every single meter of copper wire out of those walls. But I didn't. That's what a crazy ex-boyfriend does. That gets you an AVO and a night in the lockup. I'm a businessman, and businesses deal in facts. I sat down at my computer, cracked a beer, and logged on to the NS Double Land Registry services. It costs about $20 to do a title search. Best money I ever spent. I typed in the address, 412 Railway Parade, Parramatta. Click, pay, download. The PDF opened on my screen. Certificate of title. Registered proprietors. Mark last name. Jessica last name. Tenancy. Joint tenants. Date of registration 2019. There was no Ben. Ben was a ghost. A fairy tale invented to get free labor out of a gullible Sparky. Joint tenants usually means married or de facto. They bought it 4 years ago. They weren't brother and sister. They were partners. They were building an asset portfolio together, and I was just the sucker who increased their equity by 50 grand for the cost of a few dates and some empty promises. I stared at her name on that document. Jessica, the woman who told me I was her hero. The woman who let me pay for the switchboard because her brother was broke. Mark probably didn't even know I existed. Or maybe he did. Maybe she told him I was just a friend of a friend doing a favor. Or maybe she told him I was the cheap contractor. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I had done $15,000 worth of work on a property she owned, and I hadn't seen a cent. Well, in the construction game, we have a little thing called the Security of Payment Act. And if you don't pay your contractors, things get ugly real fast. I didn't call Jessica to scream at her. I didn't drive back to Parramatta to confront Mark. Instead, I opened my accounting software, Xero. I created a new invoice. Invoice, Yawando 24. Client, Jessica, last name and Mark, last name. Property, 412 Railway Parade, Parramatta. I itemized everything. Every meter of cable, every safety switch, every LED downlight. And the labour? Oh, I didn't charge the boyfriend rate. I charged the emergency weekend call-out rate. Saturday penalty rates, double time. Sunday penalty rates, double time and a half. When I hit total, the number at the bottom was beautiful. $18,450 Inc. GST. I attached a formal letter of demand. Payment required within 7 days under the Building and Construction Industry Security of Payment Act. Failure to pay will result in a caveat being lodged on the title deed of the property immediately. For those who don't know, a caveat freezes the property. They can't sell it. They can't refinance it. It's a red flag to every bank in the country. I sent the email to Jessica, and I CC'd Mark. I found his email on LinkedIn. He works in finance, so he knows exactly what a caveat means. 10 minutes later, my phone blew up. 15 missed calls from Jessica. Texts pleading, crying, saying, "How could you do this to family?" Family? I texted back. Ben isn't family. Ben doesn't exist. Mark is the owner. Pay the invoice or I see you in court. The next morning, the money was in my account. Full amount. Transfer description. Electrical work. Mark paid it. I bet that was an awkward conversation at the dinner table. "Honey, why is the Sparky charging us 18 grand for the renovation you said was cheap?" I never spoke to Jessica again. I blocked her number. I took that money and put a deposit on my own investment property. A little fixer-upper. And the wiring? I did it myself. For free. Because the only person getting free labour from me these days is me.